Good afternoon and welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. Political reflections. Robert Mueller stepped up and gave a press conference but didn't take any questions and ended his statement with the chief finding from his report. Read this carefully, what he's saying. And I take you back to December 2016 when I wrote that article, "We Have a DV-8 Tomahawk." And I said my starting point is the election of President Trump, because hindsight will surely show that Russia ran a seriously sophisticated program of interference, mostly digital. I said the first thing is plausible deniability. The second thing is non-linearity. From feeding the hothouse conspiracy frenzy online, a constant state of destabilized perception, timely and judicious doses of WikiLeaks leaks which drained Hillary's bona fides and her turnout and motivated Trump's. What we have witnessed is something remarkable and noteworthy. I said Putin has proven himself an information master, and his adversaries are his information victims, which seems to be the point Robert Mueller's making. He also said if we had confidence that the president had not committed a crime, we would have said so. Michael Wolff has come out with a follow-on book. And one tidbit from that, he came down from the residence into the Oval Office in a full-on rage, so violent that for a moment his hair came undone. To the shock of the people with him, there stood an almost entirely bald Donald Trump. I urge you to carefully consider the potential sanctions exposure of Instex. This is Mandelker wrote in a letter to the Instex president, Per Fischer. Engaging in activities that run afoul of US sanctions can result in severe consequences, including a loss of access to the US financial system. The official who asked not to be identified, discussing internal deliberations, said the letter was intended to serve as a warning that the US would punish anyone associated with Instex, including businesses, government officials, and staff, if they were working to set up a program to help Iran evade US sanctions. This is a shot across the bow of a European political establishment committed to using Instex and its sanctions-connected Iranian counterpart to circumvent US measures. Asked to comment on the letter, the Treasury Department issued a statement saying entities that transact in trade with the Iranian regime through any means may expose themselves to considerable sanctions risk, and the Treasury intends to aggressively enforce our authorities. I said this previously, that they weren't going to get very far, and I think, to quote myself, I said when push comes to shove, they're going to fold. The level of financial and coercive sanction warfare is simply unprecedented. President Trump has been a big proponent of coercive financial and sanction warfare, and its expression vis-a-vis Iran is its apogee. Interesting article that I came across from PDA Costa, Newsweek. Hitler was actually an incompetent, lazy egomaniac, and his government was an absolute clown show. Why did the elites of Germany so consistently underestimate Hitler? Possibly because they weren't actually wrong in their assessment on his competency. They just failed to realize that this wasn't enough to stand in the way of his ambition. As it would turn out, Hitler was really bad at running a government. As his own press chief Otto Dietrich later wrote in his memoir, The Hitler I Knew, in the 12 years of his rule in Germany, Hitler produced the biggest confusion in government that ever existed in a civilized state. He procrastinated wildly when asked to make difficult decisions and would often end up relying on gut feeling, leaving even close allies in the dark about his plans. There's a bit of an argument among historians about whether this was a deliberate ploy on Hitler's part to get his own way, or whether he was just really, really bad at being in charge of stuff. Very interesting article. Didn't say we didn't warn you. The phrase from China signals the trade war could get even worse. Don't say we didn't warn you, the People's Daily said in a commentary titled United States Don't Underestimate China's Ability to Strike Back. The phrase, don't say we didn't warn you, has been used by the People's Daily in 1962, before China's border war with India and ahead of the 1979 China-Vietnam War. They've threatened to cut off rare earth minerals as a countermeasure in the escalated trade battle. 27th of May, China versus US, I said this is going ballistic. And I said my baseline is the trade war is headed off the charts into territory the market still continues to price as a tail risk. And I was talking about how markets across the world shivered in May, some caught a fever, and some on the periphery have become as delirious as victims of cerebral malaria. I'm bearish on the Chinese currency, and I said the surge in Bitcoin this year is surely correlated to Chinese flight capital.